Before I run down the rundown for today's show, please allow me a point of personal privilege. I am humbled once again to welcome more Tavis Smiley affiliates. 18 months ago, we launched into syndication with just one affiliate, just one. For showing up first, I am eternally grateful to WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about. Then came WVON in Chicago, WURD in Philadelphia, WHCR in New York City, etc., etc., etc. It ain't nothing but a blessing that this show now has 40 affiliates, just like that. Won't he do it? Won't he will. I am pleased to announce that starting right now, this program is also heard on WERE 1490 AM in Cleveland, WOLB 1010 AM in Baltimore, WDBZ 1230 AM in Cincinnati, and KDEE 97.5 FM in the state capital of California, Sacramento. Welcome to all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the honor of being heard on your stations. We will do our level best every day to earn your trust. So we are grateful for those new stations carrying this program right now. Now to the rundown. In our second hour today, I expect to have a rich and deep dialogue with the host of the very popular public radio program Reveal, investigative journalist and Peabody Award winner Al Letson. In our third hour, two conversations. Up first, a conversation celebrating Women's History Month, of which there will be many this March. We will talk with Amber Grossman, founder of Black Girls Gardening and author of the gorgeous new book, Black Girls Gardening, Empowering Stories and Garden Wisdom for Healing and Flourishing in Nature. And then on the B side of Hour 3. By now, you have no doubt heard that Angie Stone, the Grammy-nominated hip-hop pioneer, neo-soul singer, and R&B sensation, died on Saturday in Montgomery, Alabama at age 63. Angie died in a hospital after being involved in a car crash following a performance. I love me some Angie Stone and had the pleasure of talking to her many, many times over the course of my broadcast career and her music career. On the backside of Hour 3, we will close our show today in tribute to Angie Stone, but when we come forward, I am going to share with you some sound from what would turn out to be my very last public dialogue with Angie Stone. A clip that is sure to make you laugh, I promise you. Angie had a wicked sense of humor, so when we come forward, I'll play that clip and we will spend the last half hour of our show in tribute to Angie Stone. But once we play the clip, we will commence today's show in conversation with Professor and founding director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University. A lot to cover with him, Dr. Michael K. Fontroy. You are listening to Tavis Smiley.
Spring has come and winter's gone, my love. But don't look around for me, child. I'll be gone, not afraid, because the seasons have changed. I'm gonna count my blessings and just follow the sun.
generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, you know to check you have a full tank of gas first, before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Who cares about the black community in Altadena? We do. On Saturday, March 8th at 10 a.m., it's the premiere of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr. This new weekly show will explore the deep roots and resilience of Altadena's black community as we track its recovery and reimagine its future. From relief efforts to rebuilding, we're raising up voices, stories, and solutions to build back Black Altadena better and stronger than ever. It's Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr every Saturday at 10 a.m. beginning Saturday, March 8th with an encore presentation Sundays at noon.
James Farr, the man who is the voice for Black Los Angeles.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed, and I'm glad about it. Let's get this party started. Before I jump to Michael Fontroy and spend the rest of this first hour, as we typically do, talking about politics and trending news, and there is a lot to talk about. I'm sure you all saw that brouhaha, that clash in the Oval Office. I've never seen anything like that in my career. It was just a smackdown, an all-out humiliation of the president of another country. In this case, Mr. Zelensky of Ukraine. We'll talk about that. There's some other breaking news today, so Michael Fontroy and I have a lot to unpack as we move through this hour. But as promised a moment ago, I want to play just briefly here a clip from what would be my very last public conversation just a year or so ago with Angie Stone, who tragically passed away in a hospital after an accident just outside of Montgomery, Alabama, after a performance. In a car crash, we are told that the van that she and her team were in flipped over a few times, apparently, on the highway, and after flipping a few times was hit by a semi. And thankfully, the other persons in her van all survived. But tragically, we have lost this amazing talent. Angie Stone. In our third hour today, in the last half hour to be exact, we're going to offer a tribute to Angie Stone. I'll play more of this conversation then, but just a taste now, and I think it'll make you smile. Just a taste now of some sound from my last conversation with Angie Stone. Angie, tell me about this song. I'm going to play a bit of it, just a tease for the audience, but tell me about this new track, Kiss You.
Kiss You. Okay, well, Kiss You is one of them songs that needed to keep me relevant, tie in with today and yesterday. I am an avid believer that a kiss tells a multitude of things, and I believe that in the summary of one kiss, whether you like a person, whether that person is sexy, whether they're affectionate, whether they're fake, whether they're, you can kind of gauge a kiss. You know how many first people have you kissed and go, not bad. You kind of know based on how they touch you. And, I'm a girl with big lips. So my thing is, you got to be right with me. You can't just come, And so if I see somebody with some nice lips, I'm targeting your lips. That's what done got me in trouble this far. So that song is about, pay attention to the kiss, ladies.
Miles, give me some of Kiss You from Angie Stone.
Ooh, boy, your lips, the way they sitting, I can't focus, I can't even pay attention. I lick my lips, they start to glisten. You wanna bite them every time in your vision. And I just wanna kiss you, kiss you, kiss you, kiss you, kiss you, baby. And I just wanna kiss you, kiss you, kiss you, kiss you. And you better believe, now you ain't never heard of Angie like this. Cause I'm a full-grown woman, don't forget that I got wants and I got needs like everybody. I want your hands touching all over my body. Bubble back rub, foot massaging. Only me, not trying to be nobody's option. So this was meant to be, cause you were sent to me. Your kiss convinces me. Come put your lips, ooh boy, your lips.
All right, Miles, that's enough. I don't want to give it away. It doesn't drop. It doesn't drop until the 10th of this month. I want to give folks just a taste, speaking of lips. I love that. Again, as I said earlier, I always love your lyrical content. When you said you're a full-grown woman, talk to me about being a full-grown woman at this stage of your career, Angie Stone.
Being a full-grown woman still with a young girl's mind. Let me just tell you something. I'm setting the table and taste for cougars out there. I want people to know that you can listen. I'm no longer a cougar, Tavis. I'm on a grown woman level now. But I want people to know that real love. I'm gonna have to go with R. Kelly on this. Age ain't nothing but a number.
Yeah.
You got to be careful. You can't go too low, though. You got to stay within reason. But the point that I think I'm trying to make is I'm a full-grown woman. I make better decisions, at my age now than when I was 25, 30. But at the same time, when you're 25, 30, you really ain't but 20. And people need to realize and understand that good love is good love whether it's 20 or it's 30. So I want people to understand that you can be full-grown and have butterflies. And if you still got butterflies, you're still full of love. You can make it. And that it doesn't mean you're wrong for loving. It just makes you wrong when you step out of bounds.
More of that conversation with Angie Stone when we offer our tribute to her in our third and final hour today. I look forward to that, and you don't want to miss the rest of that conversation. That's just a taste. But we are going to miss Angie Stone. Thankfully, her music will live forever. Now, pleased to welcome our friend and brother from Georgia Mason University, Dr. Michael Fontour, to this program. Michael, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, my brother. How are you?
Man, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. Obviously, I'm saddened by the loss of by Angie Stone, and of late, I've been doing too much of this. I mean, I am fortunate and blessed that over the course of my career, I've interviewed pretty much everybody, and I always have the opportunity to go into my vault and to pull out some of the best of these conversations with all kinds of people. But I must tell you, there's no joy in having to go into that vault for this particular reason. But just doing too much of this lately. I was thinking though, as that clip was playing, one of the things I love about you and your wife. I've known Michael for years. Some of you know that. And Michael has a set of twins, a boy and a girl, and they took very early on to exposing their kids not just to the music of this generation, but to the music of past generations. And if you're ever around their kids, that they can quote you chapter and verse. They know all the lyrics of some of the best of our music. And I'm talking back the 60s, 70s, 80s, even though they're just kids. They know black music rather well. Has Angie Stone been on your playlist over the years for the kids?
A little. But I will tell you, Tavis, I was so proud last week. My son is in the shower, and like a lot of teenage dudes, he takes forever. But he had the Roberta Flack playlist going on, and I just thought about that. I said, okay, he really has been paying attention in ways that we actually didn't know. And he asked me a couple of questions about Donny Hathaway. So as you mentioned, Angie Stone, I think about her. I think about Roberta Flack, and I think about, outstanding writers, wordsmiths, great singers, indomitable spirits, really durable careers, the kinds of careers that are not flashes in the pan, but as you mentioned a second ago, leave music that will live forever. And so while we mourn Angie Stone's loss, we got a great catalog that we can reflect on that can pull us out of any bad mood we'll be in.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. Her music is, I was just rocking Angie Stone all day yesterday because, again, it's tragic the way her life comes to an end at 63 and just so unexpected. And it just reminds us that life is fleeting. And I think of Quincy Jones, my dear friend Q, who was celebrated last night at the Academy Awards. I saw Whoopi and Oprah leading this tribute to Q last night. And Q used to always tell me, Michael, Tavis, live every day like it's your last because one day it will be. Live every day like it's your last because one day it will be. That was always the advice that Q gave to me. And so we just never know. And so that advice I offer to all of you, to live every day like it's your last because one day it will be. We all eventually have to do that dance, with mortality. We just know not when. And so we will miss Angie Stone. But again, in our third and final hour, there's a funny story that Angie and I are going to jointly tell you in this third hour. That big hit she had called Brother. Everybody loves that song, Brother, My Black Brother. I was supposed to be in that video. I didn't know it, but I was supposed to be in that video, and something crazy happened. And I didn't make the video, but we'll tell the story about that and a few other things when we celebrate Angie Stone again on the backside of Hour 3. All right, let me jump straight away into these politics because there's so much to talk about in the time I have left in this hour. I suspect I should start with this. Speaking of clips, this is some sound in case you haven't heard it. I'm sure you have, but this is some sound from the drama in the White House with Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and President Zelensky of Ukraine just a few days ago. Take a listen.
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning. Sure. First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once?
This entire meeting?
No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment, and
voted
you
for
men
your
are brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Michael Fontroy, I don't have a language. All I know is I have covered politics for better than 3 decades of my career. You teach this stuff every day. What do you make of what happened in the Oval Office?
Well, first, let me be a little more specific. I've been teaching courses on the presidency every semester for the last decade plus. And while I don't profess to know everything there possibly is to know about the presidency, I can tell you, I've never seen anything like this. Mm-hmm. It was embarrassing. It was unnecessary. It was petty. It was bullying. It was all of the worst things that America is about with and is seen with the rest of the world. Now, there's no question there's some backstory around this, and it's now official. The official policy of the U.S. government is now to support an authoritarian dictator in Vladimir Putin, mm-hmm. which I can only imagine even Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush are rolling around in their graves right now at the thought that the U.S. president is defending Russia when they were the ones that invaded a sovereign nation. And mm-hmm. so, it's terrible all the way around, and it's just all the more reason to remind people that unfortunately elections have consequences. 2024 turned out the way it is, but as we look next year toward 2026, some of that toothpaste can be put back in the tube, but it's going to take a lot of work.
What do you make of the fact that Donald Trump, in real time in front of our eyes, is once again trying to flip the script on reality? He has suggested, not just suggested, but said, he has called Zelensky a dictator. He has argued publicly that they started this war. To your point of a moment ago, that's just not true. But what do you make of the fact that even when it comes to foreign policy, the narrative that Donald Trump advances is just a lie?
It's just a lie, but he's gotten away with it so often for so long that why shouldn't he continue to go to it? I get why he tells the lie, because there are media outlets out there that will repeat it and amplify it, and he's never held accountable for it. So he's going to continue to try to rewrite history. Here in Ukraine on January 6th, on the 2020 election, you name it, he will try to rewrite the history. And unfortunately, and we heard a little bit of that with the Vice President J.D. Vance, there are all too many people that are willing to bend the knee and bow to this foolishness.
Yeah, it was a pile on in the worst way. But it's not just the smackdown that Zelensky got in the Oval Office. Now you have the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, saying that Zelensky, this is a quote, needs to come to his senses and come back to the table in gratitude, or someone else needs to lead the country to do that, close quote. That sounds to me like regime change, Michael Fontroy.
That's exactly what it is. And imagine for a second if during the course of the presidential election in the United States, foreign leaders of the sort that Mike Johnson is were saying the same thing. It's inappropriate for the United States to be involved in this way. Now, look, truth be told, the United States has been involved in a lot of regime change over the years.
No question.
And Mike Johnson knows that. But this is so outrageous and outlandish. And by the way, Mike Johnson has not distinguished himself as Speaker of the House. And in some ways, he may need to go too.
Yeah. Yeah. If Zelensky has to go, you need to go. So yeah. I take your point. If there's any good news for Mr. Zelensky, it is that European leaders have doubled down after this Trump blow-up in supporting him, and they are not going to allow Donald Trump to sabotage these peace talks, whatever that turns out to be. But again, the good news is that in Europe, they saw what happened in the Oval Office. As Mike mentioned, the whole world saw this humiliation, this embarrassment, this smackdown. And at least in the EU, they are standing with him. So we will see in the coming days what actually happens. But it is the case that Mr. Zelensky needs the U.S.'s support. And if Donald Trump has his way, they're going to end up, Russia, that is, will end up with half of Ukraine, half of the land in Ukraine in this settlement. And so I kind of feel for the brother at the moment. But it is the case that he has to play ball with us. And I am not one to offer me advice on how to do that. But what happened last week is not the answer to the prayer. We'll continue our dialogue with Michael Fontroy. A great deal more to cover when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say, when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. Forward.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. In a new update, South Carolina and North Carolina are battling wildfires with nearly 5,000 acres burned in South Carolina and 500 acres in North Carolina and 30% contained. The largest fire in South Carolina is also 30% contained, and no injuries have been reported at last check. European leaders pledged billions to Ukraine at a London summit. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a nearly $3 billion loan funded by frozen Russian assets and a missile deal. He aims to strengthen Ukraine for peace negotiations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stressed the U.S. commitment to ending the Russia-Ukraine war, urging President Zelensky to negotiate. The African Council estimates around 30,000 Africans live in Ukraine. And the Oscars in Memoriam segment on Sunday honored those lost in the film industry, including Gene Hackman, with Morgan Freeman speaking. Notably, Candyman actor Tony Todd was left out. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
You asked for it. 9 new dates added. You won't want to miss. For the Record presents Tarantino Pulp Rock, the immersive live experience that will blow you away. Come kill it with us. Ends April 6th, only at the Cinevita next to SoFi Stadium. Get your tickets now.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers' winning streak is now at 6. Last night's 108-102 win over the Clippers at Crypto.com moved the Lakers into second place in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City is on top in the West, 10 games ahead of the surging Lakers. The Lakers' 18-4 record is the best in the NBA over the past 6 weeks. Luka Doncic led the Lakers last night with 29 points and 9 assists. Rookie forward Dalton Knecht dropped 19 off the bench. The Lakers are back in action Tuesday night against New Orleans. The Clippers are at Phoenix on Tuesday. R&B singer Angie Stone was on her way to perform at the CIAA Men's Basketball Championship game Saturday night in Baltimore. Stone died early Saturday morning in a car crash outside of Montgomery, Alabama. The CIAA is made up of HBCU schools. Virginia State defeated Bluefield State 71-64 to earn the automatic bid to the NCAA Division II tournament. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Experience adventure at Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. Ride the world's largest rotating tram car. Explore over 50 miles of scenic trails in pristine wilderness. Dine at 8,500 feet with awe-inspiring views and get that perfect souvenir. Adventure at its peak. Learn more at pstramway.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that, like George and Weezy,
We're moving on now.
earlier this year, we were named as semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. You ready? KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th. At 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Texting enroll expose you into reoccurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. At work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ROCK to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text ROCK to 42424. That's ROCK to 42424.
He's a paradigm pioneer
and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Michael Fontroy of Georgia Mason University. Before I pivot to some domestic issues, by the way, as you probably know, Donald Trump tomorrow night gives his first address to a joint session of Congress since returning to the White House 6 weeks ago. So tomorrow, whether you like it or not, whether you want to see it or not, he is going to address a joint session of Congress tomorrow night. Michael and I were talking a moment about what we think he might say, but clearly he's going to double down on this effort to reshape, for lack of a better word, government. He and Elon Musk. So we going to get a whole lot more of that, I suspect, tomorrow night. We'll talk about that speech in a moment. But while I'm talking about foreign policy and the humiliation that was afforded Mr. Zelensky of Ukraine a few days ago in the White House, the Trump administration has done it again. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has invoked emergency authorities to bypass Congress and send another $4 billion in weapons to Israel. The second time in a month that the Trump administration has skirted the process of congressional approval for sending arms to the country. I guess none of us at some level should be surprised by this, given that Donald Trump has said that he wants to make Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East. We should not also be surprised by the fact that Israel has halted all aid to Gaza as the ceasefire falters. This is a hot mess any way you look at it, Michael Fontroy, but the fact that this administration, barely 6 weeks in, has now twice skirted Congress sending money to Israel is troubling for a lot of people, including yours truly.
Yeah, and I will say, buckle up because there's going to be a lot more of this.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is a real estate deal, and that's painful because we're talking about the lives of human beings. But, the Israeli moves to delay negotiations and wait until, in hopes that Trump would win. He wins, and so they begin to take a different approach. And now we're seeing what we're seeing. I think this is all part of the Trump administration's overarching theocracy and its overarching interest that intersect religion, but more importantly, business. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of this, not just in the Middle East, but we'll see it in other places too. I'm concerned about what's going on in Africa, as there's a bit of a rush to get access to the minerals that are there, mm-hmm. and so we'll see that going on in other parts of the world too.
Clearly, Joe Biden would never have said that he wanted to see Gaza become the Riviera of the Middle East, and yet we are now concerned. There are questions about whether or not phase 2 of this ceasefire will ever kick in, which leads me to ask, given that the Trump administration has not moved very differently than the Biden administration in terms of sending money to Israel, the Biden administration, didn't twice in 6 weeks skirt Congress, bypass Congress to do it. But in that regard, Biden, Trump, not much different, continuing to send money to Israel. But I do ask, before I move forward, whether or not you expect, with regard to phase 2, if and when that ever gets off the ground, you expect Trump to move differently with regard to Israel than Joe Biden did.
I think in many ways he's already moved differently. I mean, all this talk about Riviera or the Mediterranean is gross and not anything I think that Biden would have done. I think that it's a really open question as to whether or not phase 2 will actually ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit to the Trump administration? What's the benefit to the Israelis? The Trump administration and Netanyahu have joint interest in moving all of the people off of Gaza, and so I think that's the end game. And I don't think there's any reason to think that without the power and the influence that they have, with the House and Senate that have already bent the knee, that's the end game.
Yeah. We shall see in the coming days what happens there, but what we know at this hour is that, again, the Trump administration has once again just bypassed Congress to send another $4 billion. Here's the thing for me, Michael. It doesn't matter whether it's Israel or some other country or some other project. It matters not to me. But $4 billion is a lot of money to skirt Congress. I mean, that's just a lot of money. And to have done that twice in a matter of weeks is mind-boggling. But this is, I remind our audience all the time, this is your money. This is your money. And one guy singularly has decided that $4 billion of it ought to go here. And that's, say nothing of the money, the billions that was sent just a few weeks ago. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of spending, Michael, of taxpayer money without congressional approval. That's what concerns me, even beyond the Israel piece of it.
Well, every president has some discretion in terms of the distribution of some dollars. But again, elections have consequences. And now we had a Republican House and Senate that has no interest in pushing back at all, even if they disagree with President Trump. And so this is what we end up with when we get bad electoral outcomes. And we got to keep pushing and keep telling the truth about this stuff and hoping that eventually, enough people will recognize that we're in a bad place and want to make sure that something happens to prevent it from getting worse.
This question may be out of order, but let me ask you anyway, and we'll push our way toward this address from Donald Trump tomorrow night in front of both sessions of a joint session of Congress. So if you consider that Trump comes into office, essentially, again, you teach this stuff every day, your students understand this terminology, he really comes into office as a lame duck. He can't run again, even though they've already floated this idea that he should run for a third term because these two terms were not consecutive. We've already heard that nonsense. We'll see. We'll have to smack that down at some point. Trust and believe he will try it if he can get away with running a third term. That said, though, at some point, it seems to me, there is the hope, the chance, the prayer, you tell me, that even Republicans won't be as afraid of him to the point you made a moment ago. They have no interest in pushing back on him. There seems to me to be a point at which even they won't be as afraid when they know that he is in, the last couple of years, when they know that he can't run again. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, but one would want to believe at some point they won't be as scared a little further down the road as they are right now, given that he can't run again.
So the historical norm is the second half of the second term is when a president becomes a lame duck, and at that point you might find some pushback. Here's the problem, Tavis. The Republicans in control of the House and Senate right now are far more doctrinaire than they've ever been before. They're far more in lockstep with President Trump than ever before. And so I expect the same knee-bending, the same ring-kissing to continue throughout the next for the rest of his term in office. The only change is if the Republicans get wiped out in the House in 2026. That's not going to happen in the Senate because the numbers are set up a little differently. It could potentially happen in the House, but I have no confidence that that congressional Republicans are prepared to stand up. They've already had enough examples over the course of the last month to stand up and do something, and have done nothing.
So my sense is, I think you're probably right about that. My sense is that these Republicans at the moment are scared of being primaried. They're scared. Yeah, they're scared that Donald Trump will primary them and take them out, and they don't want that to happen. We just saw Donald Trump endorse Vivek Ramaswamy for governor of Ohio, and there are those who believe that's going to stop a whole lot of folk from getting in that race, that Trump has put his thumb on the scale already in the Ohio governor's race. But my sense is, again, they're afraid to be primaried by Donald Trump, and that's why they're not saying or doing anything at the moment while he wields all of this power. When we come forward, I want to ask Michael the other side of that question, which is this. If Republicans are scared to push back on Donald Trump because they're afraid he's going to primary them. Have Democrats targeted the 3, 4, 5 people they need to get out of the way to take over the majority in the House and make Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker? I know why Republicans, again, ain't doing nothing with regard to pushing back on Trump. Again, I repeat, they don't want to be primaried. But the flip side is, what are Democrats doing? Have Democrats identified those 3, 4, 5 seats that they need to take back control of the House? If they've identified those persons, do we know who they are? What is their campaign? What is their strategy? What is their approach to take those persons out to regain, I should say, control of the House? That's the part of the story that I haven't seen yet and quite don't understand. But Michael is much smarter than I am. We'll talk about that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
I'm Sherry Shepard. You've been a wonderful audience. Now, I may be a comedian, but I don't joke about pneumococcal pneumonia. If you're 50 or older, like me, you're at over 6 times greater risk of getting pneumococcal pneumonia. And I just learned that nearly 1 out of every 3 cases of invasive pneumococcal disease is in adults 50 to 64. So even if you're healthy, the CDC recommends vaccination for you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com to help protect yourself, like I did. That's vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
There's new reaction following the Trump administration's sweeping efforts to cut the federal workforce.
Fired but not forgotten. The Testimony Project. Bearing witness, breaking silence, building community. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to amplifying the voices of black federal workers impacted by the mass firings, rooted in the black tradition of testimony. This initiative ensures that those who served us are not erased from history. Through firsthand accounts, investigative storytelling, and community-driven dialogue, we intend to expose injustice, preserve truth, and demand accountability. If you or someone you know has been forced out of federal employment due to the mass firings, please contact us at info@smileyaudiomedia.com or via the open mic feature on the KBLA 1580 app. We want to hear from you and share your story. KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Michael Fontroy of George Mason University. So Michael, that's the question for me. We know, again, that these Republicans are afraid to push back. They don't want to be primaried by Donald Trump. The question is, what are Democrats doing? It seems to me, again, that we ought to be clear about who these persons are that need to be taken out. And I don't mean taken out literally, but defeated is a better word. We ought to know who they are. Democrats ought to be tracking their record. Democrats ought to be speaking publicly regularly about why these 5 persons have no business being returned to Congress. They ought to be targeted. That's what Republicans would be doing. They ought to be targeted and they ought to be tracked between now and the midterms. That's how you win back the House. It seems to me I'm not seeing that. What do you know that I don't?
Well, there are probably 8 Republican races that are now considered toss-ups. And I think what you're talking about may well be happening at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, there is the Arizona governor's race and 2 of the U.S. House seats that are among the 8 that are considered toss-ups that are held by Republicans are also in Arizona. So I think Arizona is going to be one of the hot spots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are groups that are beginning to get their targeting together in that regard. I think the House Campaign Committee is going to be primarily focused on reelecting its own members. And so that leaves it to others to get the targeting done among Republicans. But I think you're right, that kind of work has to be done, and a lot of it is going to have to take place at the state level.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see the game plan, and I keep raising this issue every week, every day it seems on this program that there has to be a plan, and I'm just not sure that I see that plan. I've said repeatedly, the 3 W's, as I've characterized it, are not the answer to the prayer. To wait, to watch, and think you're going to win. It ain't going to happen that way.
Right.
And that's what I see right now. Democrats are just waiting. They're watching, and they expect that if he implodes or goes too far, they would just automatically win. You heard the advice that, as a matter of fact, what do you make of that advice that James Carville offered in the op-ed that he wrote, that Democrats ought to just play possum right now, play possum and just sit back and wait and don't do nothing for the time being. I like Carville. I'm not sure I'm down with that strategy, though, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little done with him, if I could be honest.
Sure,
with you.
sure.
I don't need to hear from him right now. But there is something to be said for not rushing. Let me put it that way.
Sure, sure.
Because what's going on right now here in D.C. is a brewing storm. Now, I think you got to help it along.
Yeah.
You got to be out there talking about it. For example, the bottom 20% of American homeowners, Americans by income, are about to see a tax increase based on what is working its way through Congress right now.
Yeah.
That needs to be in the lead of every possible campaign ad. And while at the same time, those who are at the upper 20% of the income spectrum are getting a massive tax cut. And so that kind of stuff needs to be talked about and force Republicans to explain why it is they're supporting something that's giving low-income people a tax increase and high-income people a tax cut. They're not being put on defensive enough. So I'd certainly be in support of that. But I also think that, when your opponents are digging a ditch, you let them keep digging.
Yeah. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Michael Fontre, we'll tee up Donald Trump's address to a joint session of Congress tomorrow night. You are listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is an ad by BetterHelp Online Therapy. When it comes to relationships, we often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but it's just as important to focus on the green flags. Think about how you want a relationship to feel, one where your boundaries are respected and you're encouraged to be your best self. If you're not sure what that looks like, therapy can help you identify those qualities so you can embody the green flag energy yourself and find it in others. Because whether you're dating, married, or building a friendship, it's time to form relationships that love you back. BetterHelp connects you to a diverse network of over 30,000 therapists worldwide with expertise in a wide range of issues, from depression and anxiety to work and relationships. It's 100% online and sign-up only takes a few minutes. Find your green flag energy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABC Radio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABC Radio.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Ever have one of those days where your gut just feels blah?
Ugh, yes.
Occasional bloating or gas could be signs that your gut is out of balance, but Align Probiotic can help. Align 24/7 Digestive Support is a daily use probiotic with a unique strain to help relieve occasional digestive issues. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand. So when you feel the signs, it's time to try Align. Align Probiotic. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
Our remaining moments with George Mason and Michael Fontroy. Tomorrow night, Donald Trump gives his first address to a joint session of Congress since returning to the White House. The typical State of the Union address allows a sitting president, as you know, to sort of recap their accomplishments over the past year in office. But for a newly sworn-in president like Donald Trump, this joint session is an opportunity to really lay out his agenda. I think he's already done that. My sense is, Michael Fontroy, that tomorrow night he's going to double down on that agenda. What say you about what to expect tomorrow night from Donald Trump in this joint session speech?
Well, I don't think there's any reason to expect anything new that we haven't already heard. He is a sort of broken record in some ways, where it will eventually skip and you hear the same thing over and over. And so I think we're going to get all of the greatest hits in that regard. So he'll talk about the need to reduce the size of government, how government is weaponized against conservatives, and he'll talk about DEI and how that's discriminatory against whites and all of that. And he's preaching to the same choir that he's always preached to. What I will be interested in finding out is how many people watch or listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's overly fixated on ratings. Well, there's nothing more important than how many people tune in to an address to Congress if you're a president. And so if he comes in at numbers that are lower than probably what we're expected or lower than what we saw with Biden, it's going to hurt his feelings. But if it's more than that, then it'll just embolden him to be even crazier.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't expect we're going to see anything different tomorrow night than what we've already seen. He will just double down, triple down, if you will, on these executive orders. And speaking of which, his latest executive order, as you saw, was to designate English as the official language of the U.S. More than 30 states have already done that. But this is the kind of stuff that Donald Trump does that really is just, placating, little red meat to his base. But again, there's no real, it doesn't really, again, I don't know what this does. It's largely symbolic. That's the word I was reaching for. It's largely symbolic, but it placates, it plays to his base. Does it not, Michael Fontroy?
It is performative. And just last week, I was teaching my students about executive orders. Some of them are performative and have no particular utility beyond just presenting a certain picture. This is something that means nothing. It's not enforceable. There are civil rights and voting rights and other kinds of legislation that require the production of documents in multiple languages. He can't overturn that with an executive order. It is just yet another way to convince, and cynically so in my opinion, his voters that he's actually doing something when he's doing nothing.
Professor and founding director of the Race, Politics, and Policy Center at George Mason University, Dr. Michael K. Fontroy, we appreciate your analysis in this hour. We will do it again, sir. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for your time.
Likewise, man. Talk to you later.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. In a new update, South Carolina and North Carolina are battling wildfires with nearly 5,000 acres burned in South Carolina and 500 acres in North Carolina and 30% contained. The largest fire in South Carolina is also 30% contained, and no injuries have been reported at last check. European leaders pledged billions to Ukraine at a London summit. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a nearly $3 billion loan funded by frozen Russian assets and a missile deal. He aims to strengthen Ukraine for peace negotiations.
You asked for it. 9 new dates added. You won't want to miss For the Record presents Tarantino Pulp Rock.